When you think of historic Midland homes, you might think of George Bush's childhood home, and for good reason. Not every town was once home to not one but two of the 46 presidents. But some Midland residents might not know that 5 minutes away from the Bush home is the Brown-Dorsey House, which has a history itself.
The house was actually built in 1899. The family moved in January of 1900. And now this is the oldest remaining house in Midland. It's one of the very first houses built to a plan. As you can see, it has the Victorian style of narrow arches and the gingerbread. So it's also kind of a neat look at what's called folk Victorian.
Not only is it the oldest house in Midland, it's the only known Victorian residential architecture left in the city. And when you have something there's only one of, you preserve it. And the Midland Historical Society has done that.
Well, we've owned this house since the late 1960s when the last member of the family passed on, and we've maintained it as a historic property and restored it as it looked when the family lived here in the early 1900s.
And every once in a while, they give tours to the public, taking you back to 1900.
So go inside. So the house is furnished as it would have been when the family lived here in the early 1900s, and many of the items actually belong to the family and they were donated to us. There was no electricity when the house was built, and so when you came to the house and you wanted to let the Browns know you were here, they had what was called a crank doorbell, all mechanical. Come in.
The Brown-Dorsey House, let's just say, isn't the typical house you'd find in Midland today.
This house, if you're noticing, it's very, very compactly built. We thought it was a kit house. Sears used to make what was called a kit house. You got plans in the kit and everything. It's actually older than that. It was built to an actual plan, whereas before that, many houses were just what they called board and batten. You just kind of built it up. And so this one is very compact, so everything, like the stairwell, as you can see, fits real tightly.
Even though the house was already crowded, the family still did its part to help out in the war effort by providing a home to those who didn't.
So believe it or not, even though the Browns had quite a few children and the Dorseys had quite a few children living here, they rented out rooms up here to soldiers. And so the staircase we came up, there's a window, there was a door there, so the soldiers could actually come in and not disturb the family in their private space.
The family who lived in this house were integral parts of early Midland history.
Zachary Taylor Brown was one of the early pioneers who came out here, first in the sheep industry, then he got into ranching, was also in the mercantile business. He and his wife Sarah had a number of children. One of their daughters was named Sarah, and she married a saddle maker here named Hugh Dorsey, and that's where the name came from. So 2 generations of the family lived in this house. So this is the master bedroom. This was Sarah and ZT's, but this was actually a wedding gift. They were married a number of years before they came here, so that's well over 100, maybe 150 years old now. This dictionary actually belonged to the daughter Sarah, the Dorsey. Even has her little notes in there, which make no sense at all, but it's kind of cool to have something that personal.
The house has become a true time capsule.
They would have had what's called an ice box. You put ice in the bottom, and then you could put your refrigerated items, or put ice here and it circulated around. And so you could keep things there.
And with 6 kids around, toys were aplenty during this time.
So these are the kinds of toys that kids would have had in the early 1900s. Teddy bear, for example. That little ice cream parlor set is very, very old. It belonged to a Historical Society member from many, many years ago.
But the kids weren't the only ones who could have fun.
Oh, here's the washers.
Adults had their own way of passing the time.
So the idea, it's very similar to horseshoes. The idea is if you get the washer in the cup, you get 3 points. If you get the closest in the pit, you get 1 point. And you play to some number. Very similar to the idea of horseshoes, just a lot simpler game. So the red team would get a point because they have the closest washer to the center. Yeah, it's actually better than I thought it would do.
It may not have the notoriety of the Bush House, but the Brown-Dorsey House has definitely made its mark in Midland history. A true Midland historical artifact, mere walking distance from a lot of residents' own homes. And with 123 years standing, with its history, I'd expect it to stand 123 more, educating the future of what it was like in 1900.